Don't wait till I die before you help me. If you want to help me right now. Don't wait, oh sister, don't wait. I said don't wait, my brethren, don't wait. Don't wait till I die before you help me. I need your help. Help me right now. I'm in the hospital, lying on my sick bed. I just need you to help me one my life, and Jehovah will bless you. Don't wait till I die to rain cast and get my body to the grave. I said don't wait when I die before you praise me. Don't wait when I die to cry for me, man. Oh, don't wait when I die to post my photo. This woman was so sick, she was saying got a point of death. I said she went from place to place, but she could not get the treatment she needed. Finally, her son took her to the hospital, and the doctor said they should bring 5 pounds of blood. But this woman could not afford the money. Oh yeah, even her son could not afford the money. He left the mother at the hospital. He went to family member. He went to Uncle Johnny's place. He said, Uncle, my mother is at you. I left my mother at the hospital. And the doctor said, we should bring 5 pounds of blood. Uncle, please help my mother. Uncle, help my mother. Uncle, I beg you, help my mother. Please help my mother. Oh, Uncle, help her before she dies. Johnny looked in her face. He said, my son, I don't have no money, oh. My son, no money, oh. What tell your mama say? I don't have no money, oh. I will see what to do. But next week, my son, no money, oh. He went to Auntie Esther's place. He said, Auntie, my mother is dying. I left my mother at the hospital, and the doctor said we should bring 5 pounds of blood. I have come to beg you, Auntie, help my mother. Auntie, please help my mother. Oh, Auntie, help her before she died. Yes, I woke up, entered the house. She brought 500 from her money. She said, my son, I wish you well. I wish you well. Go tell your mama, say, I wish her well. He left, he went to Uncle Paul's place. Papa was so rich. He was rich. He had everything to his disposal. He said, Uncle, my mother is at you. I left my mother at the hospital. And the doctor said, we should bring 5 pounds of blood. Uncle, please, don't allow my mother to die. Uncle, please, don't allow my mother to die. Oh. You are my last hope, my last strength, my last hope. Uncle, please, don't allow my mother to die. But look at the boy. He shrugged his head. He said, my son, I don't have money. I'm getting my salary by next month, my son. I don't have money. Go tell your mama, say, I bet you up on condition. The boy left. He started crying.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the show. I'm Afonso Ziensot of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. What a midweek here is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as usual, this is Lpr-Tv Live with the panelists, and the panel is going to be here. But in the meantime, we have a special guest here this evening. Not necessarily his first time appearing on this network, but in his capacity as the executive director of the Organizations of Liberians in Minnesota, OLM. We have been monitoring what is happening recently of a closure of the consulate. But what is happening temporarily, we heard, is a temporary halt of the consulate. But is it enough? What is the leadership doing? Well, the executive director of OLM is KAMATY DIAHN. He will be joining me this evening from his office in Minneapolis, and we're going to be having a wide range of conversation here, the status of the OLM and the circumstances surrounding the closure of the consulate as it is allegedly been reported. We yet to note all of the details, but for what we do know, let's do a little bit backtrack here of KAMATY DIAHN. Well, I'm going to be making a full disclosure. I will not come here and denounce to say to the audience that I do not know this gentleman. It came way back from the wilderness where we were nobody and the advocacy. He's not one of those who just started the advocacy right here in the USA. It dated back as far as Camp Waterloo, engaged in the United Nations organizations, agency. And by the way, he's bilanguage, so it was an added advantage to the executive committee at the time, Chairman Emeritus Jerry Badi. Well, his involvement in the diaspora, it was no strange. Again, I encountered KAMATY DIAHN in 2010 when he served as the campaign manager of then team graduate of Honorable Fred Taluguian, who subsequently became president of the association following the 2015 elections in Phoenix, Arizona. But the elections in the Bay State of Massachusetts did not prove well, but my own friends and brothers with gracious accepted the results. So there is a trademark here. There is a DNA to this respect. Time is gradually going away. It's 8:08 Eastern Standard Time. It's time to get the ball rolling. I am Afonso Ziensot of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. Thank you for sharing this midweek with us. Today is Wednesday. Right here, as usual, bringing you news and information making headlines in Liberia and right here in our neighborhood. Well, during the course of the week, heads of Liberians, both here in the USA, Liberia, and other parts, were rolling and spinning upon the news of the consulate in Minnesota to be closed. Well, last night here, one of our senior contributors here, who is also a board member of the community, broke the news that there is an extension, 3 months temporary halt. Is it enough? What next after the 3 months? Those are the consequential questions. Well, we managed to reach authority at OLM in Minnesota. And more or less, we're interested to talk to the executive director who is here to manage to push the government, not physically, but in rules of engagement dialogue. And a temporary halt was placed. In fact, those biometric machines could have been removed yesterday, according to sources familiar with the case. With the interventions of the leadership, Executive Director KAMATY DIAHN, we learned multiple phone calls were placed and those calls perhaps bear fruit. There's a little progress being made. Temporary halt. But is it enough? What happens after the 3 months, what becomes the fate of the consulate and many Liberians right here in the diaspora, especially the services rendered to those within and the corridor of Minnesota and its environment. The executive director is here this evening to take us through, to drive us through how they got to this point of temporary halt, the status of OLM here in the USA. The organization been around, our understanding is around since the 70s, and it seems to be strong. I have interviewed multiples of executive director, Carpet DIAHN, Dr. Yeskit, then Kula Parker, who was the chief financial officer. KAMATY DIAHN is now turning the wheel of the executive director of the organizations of Liberians in Minnesota. He's going on the record here this evening, right here. And I'm going to be making a public declaration. In the next 1 hour, we're going to call all ties friendship and going to do what we are required to do. Perhaps the cat is about to eat its own baby. Get ready. The show is about to get underway. I am Alfonso Z, and so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Here, let me bring in the executive director of the organizations of Liberians based in Minnesota, OLM, Director KAMATY, KAMATY DIAHN is the executive director. Joining me from his office this evening in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's get a ball rolling here. Okay, here we go. The Honorable KAMATY DIAHN, Executive Director of the Organizations of Liberians based in Minnesota. Mr. Director, I thank you so much at shortest notice you were able to accept our invite to have a conversation here. So we are glad, we are happy that you are here. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zion. And we are very grateful to have the opportunity to be on this platform. We all know the power of this platform as disseminating information to our people in the diaspora community back home and as well. Again, I think it is an opportunity once more to be here. And I think very much that there are so many news out there in the air. But what I can say for now, the state of affairs in Minnesota, the tension has ceased. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And in all good faith, we are heading towards progress.
Okay, we are in it towards progress. And I've already made a declaration, perhaps it was in your absence, and let me just make it public. There's no way it would be disingenuous to come here to say, I'm going to denounce you. I don't know this gentleman. I don't know who he is. Then I'm not being very honest. We came down to, I came a very long way from Camp Waterloo refugee camp, and that's where I've been following your activities. The advocacies started there. So we came here in the USA, actively involved in the Grand Gated Association that presided over electoral process, which you were a campaign manager. But I say we're going to draw a fine line of demarcation. You have your role, I have my role. After the process, we can stay focused. So I want to reiterate that again. In the next 1 hour, we're going to call all ties. I'm going to put a temporary suspension on all of the good friendship jokes and everything, and we're going to get right down to the wire. But thank you so much for honoring our invitation, for being here this evening. Drive us through here. OLM has been around for quite a little while here. Take us through here to the status of the OLM on your watch as the executive director. How is OLM still doing? Is that the same OLM that a couple of years, the days of Carpet DIAHN, and all of those folks here, or a lot of progress is being made?
Well, like many organizations, OLM started from its infancy and embarked on the process of growth. Rome was never built overnight. No organization or institution just rose from the ground and became great. It is baby steps. There were people before me. And all I can say, all have been around at least 47 years ago. and it has its challenges in the past. Olm, from what it was to what it is, there is a vast difference. But we credit those executive directors before me. As Newton said, if I saw further than other men, it is because I stood on the shoulder of giants. There were other executive directors before me that paved the way. We only built on what we met to make it a more stronger and vibrant organization to what it is today.
The OLM, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The OLM, is it a membership-based organization on the folks in Minnesota area or what?
Yes, OLM is a membership-based non-profit entity. They have different kinds of non-profit organization, but ours is a membership base. We transition from the political charge entity to a service-oriented organization in 2010. Our structure then was the board of directors elected, the president and his executive elected, and the two distinct body in charge. And its president, as we all know, is the chief executive of the organization. He is the face of the organization. But in 2010, the committee decided through a referendum, through our constitution, decided we are going to transition from the presidential formation to the executive director and the board of directors. So how this work? The committee still vote in the board of directors, and then the board of directors appoint executive director. The executive director carries on the functions like what we used to have as president does. The executive director is directly answerable to the board of directors, and the board of directors answerable to the membership that elects the board of directors. The executive director has his or her staff to run the day-to-day functions of the organization. And so that's where we find ourselves. And consistent with the idea of transitioning from a politically charged entity to a service-oriented, we embark upon providing most of the needed services for our community that our community craved for. And that took OLM from a different mission statement to where it is now.
So, Mr. Director, let me ask you here, what prompted the transition from being political to services oriented? You more or less a political guy, so how you managed to go through that transition to Labor A? What prompted that decision? Was there a general consensus by the people in Minnesota to say, well, we need to change the status quo, we should be more or less services oriented? Was that a decision? How that happens?
So, like many other Liberian organizations in our diaspora community, we know what it is when you have president elected. Um, there are so many back and forth. But more importantly, if you want to carry on basic services to access grant from whether it's city, state, county, what have you, to provide needed services from your community, you have to acquire a 501c3. You have to be on a different structure. But again, we thought and felt that the presidential structure would not service the needs of our community. And we tried to do this as a pilot project to see how it worked. And I think it has been doing pretty good for us, for our community. And we've made lots of strides with our new structure. We provide lots of services to our community than we did in the past, given our structure. We run 5 solid programs in the community that provide the needed services our community needs.
Wow. So all of these are state or federal sponsor program, those services, they help to sponsor those programs. Are those state sponsor program by the state of Minnesota?
Well, we access funding through our grant writing from the city, the county, the state and from foundations. So we do not limit ourselves to where we can get funding. But what is more important is the services that we provide. We we always, need and require funding to carry on those programs. So some of those programs we start without funding, and then we go out to look for fundings. So our fundings is not limited to either the city, the state, or the county. What we think and what we can acquire those fundings is what we do.
Talking about services, Mr. Director, to get it straight down to our viewers and listeners here, what could be the perfect example of services being run by OLM in Minnesota?
So currently we run what we call workforce development program, where in our region in the state of Minnesota, majority of our people are involved in the healthcare field. And during the COVID pandemic, this pandemic disproportionately impacted our community. People lost job and what have you. So we thought the need to retrain people to get back in the workforce. And one of the industry that was still viable was the healthcare industry, where most of our people worked. So we acquired fundings, and we, you know, wrote a grant to what we call develop a culturally specific training for our people so that they can be able to access work and get back in the workforce. So the healthcare career program, we have funding from the city of Brooklyn Park, and we have funding from the city of Brooklyn Center. And so we then hire local schools that we contracted that are culturally tailored to meet the needs of our people. Because, some of the challenges that our people face when you go to the community colleges around here, because of what I was saying, we're not that strong in the English language, they will send you to do English as a second language. And if the courses are given is scheduled maybe for 8 or 12 weeks, and you probably don't understand what the teacher is saying, they're not going to wait for you. So we sort of devised a means and thought about it and said, look, let's do a cultural specific so that those local schools, that are owned by the local Africans, and we can understand the language, they will take their time and they will tailor the lessons to our student population. And then we signed a contract with those schools. Say, look, listen, and we know your school is average 4 weeks or 6 weeks, but we want you to go as far as 12 weeks to make sure that our students that we're sending to you meet that required skills and are prepared to take the state board to be placed in the workforce. So we were able to hire 3 schools, 2 Liberian-owned schools and 1 Kenyan school. And the program was very successful. So we have people going to school. Some take 6 weeks to get prepared for the state board. Some go up to 12 weeks to get prepared for the state board. So we have the first batch last year. It was successful. We were able to pass through over 90 students. This year we are trying the second batch, and I think the program was successful. That's one of the programs we do. We also do what we call food distribution. And during the pandemic, we saw that getting ends meet was just a challenge for most people, and things were hard, very hard. So we're able to access funding. Then our funding was basically for culturally sensitive food for our population, because not most of our senior, and we have the highest concentration of seniors in Minnesota, the Liberian community, if not the Somalians. So what we are prone to eating as our regular and usual diet is not the inshallah, it's not the canned food, it's not the garbage, it's the rice, especially us from Liberia, the pusawa rice. We know the story of pusawa rice. So we do the pusawa rice, the palm oil, the fufu, the sardine, and other culturally specific food that we were distributing. And we were able to make our case and we were able to access grants. So we do that once every month. Then we also have what we call the senior program. Because we do have high concentration of our seniors, we want to take them away from boredom. So they come to the office and they engage one another once a week where they can play the Lulu, checkers, whatever game that can bring about some remembrance of home, and they can engage one another other than just staying home all day long. The next program we have we call the Youth Development Program, where the young people are encouraged, they engage in different aspects of um, training, you know, mentorship and what have you. And we have what we call the Service Navigation Assistant. Service Navigation Assistant is the program that we have where we have staff at our center that will be able to help the person that walks through the door that probably cannot understand how to fill read and write and cannot fill up a form. Whether is accessing help from the city, the county, whether it's immigration, whether it's unemployment, those different aspects in our daily lives that people need help with. We have staff here at the center to help you navigate that. So we call that a Service Navigation Assistant Program.
Well, this seems to be a complete full-time job.
Sure. I'm staying in the office now. It is a full-time job. Uh, we do have an executive director. We have a program director. We do have what you call financial director. We have an office manager and office staff, office assistant. So our facility is open 5 days a week. Sometimes we open on Saturday. So we have the traffic flow here is huge. So and because we've been engaged in the community and providing these services, it just become a central point where the community can always come in to access resources, information, and go on.
Talking about the seniors, and that's one of the important things, and this is where most of these organizations outside of Minnesota, I have followed OLM for a very long period of time, from the days of Carpet DIAHN and all of folks, and you now, unlike most of our organization, I'm not saying they are not doing it, but the services rendered to seniors very, very limited. How many on top of your head do you know seniors, citizens, Liberian based in Minnesota, do you know?
Well, uh, the last time I looked at the record for now, we have a director for elderly care, coordinator, the senior coordinator. So we have 169 seniors that are registered actively. And that does not mean that that's the only number. There are more people that might not be within our system. But the
Right.
one that was in our system that active is about 159.
What is the level of cooperation, Mr. Director, with citizens, your citizens or Liberians in Minnesota? I know it's a little bit hell on earth to deal with our people, complications. There's part of this organization being transitioned to social services. I'm quite sure the political aspect is always kicking in that could undermine the work of the organization in terms of those that are providing the fundings. How difficult or what are some of the challenges in getting this thing going?
You're quite right. It's we all have different political persuasion, different religion, different. We all hail from different political subdivisions. But like I always say, our diversity is embedded in our commonality as a people. Let's focus on what brings us together. What keep us together as a people is much more stronger than what divide us. So we have to navigate through all of those challenges and keep the focus. Because if you cannot strike the balance, you will be carried away, and that will derail you from the focus and carry on the services that we provide. So we understand those challenges and we see them, but we try to focus on things that we can do that will rally the community. Because from the end goal, people would not normally understand and know the details of things how they are done. And the dissemination of information is a very critical part of any organization or institution, because where there is a break in communication, a void is always created. And people can fill the void with their perception about you. So if there's a break in communication, no engagement, there is a void. So I will be quicker to fill the void what I perceive you as being and what you perceive me as being, and which may not necessarily be true. So the easier way is to engage them. How does ALM engage its community? It's providing those continuous services. And as people come back and say, oh, I didn't know. Oh, you guys do this thing here? Because the average perception of OLM, based on the challenges that we've had in the past, from the leadership, from the presidential stage there, OLM is corrupt. OLM do this, OLM do that, OLM do this. So it becomes a challenge how to convince people that no, your perception of this organization is totally different. How do you do that? You see, I am a graduate of the College of West Africa, my high school. There is a writing on the wall. They say, by the work, they shall know the workman. So people will only get to know the truth about an organization, an individual, until you engage that person. It is our responsibility to engage our community at all levels and show leadership. Because if we fail to show leadership, that void will be created. And somebody else will fill that void and take the mantle. We want to strike the balance, given the fact that we have people of different political persuasion, we have people of different religion, we have people of different that hail from different political subdivision. But what is more important is that we are all Liberian, and our common interest should be fostered and championed by all of us as a people.
We have a tradition on this network, Mr. Executive Director, in terms of engaging our onliners, questions that we feel is applicable to the point of conversation. We always in the business of bringing that. So we want to welcome our viewers and listeners, friend and brother, Mr. Peter Escambe is based in Canada. Our own contributor, analyst, Dr. Joyce Toto. So here comes the first question here, because and I believe this question derived from the context of having a full-time job. I'm not going to go somewhere in the office in America here and sit down there. What am I going with at the end of the every other 2 weeks or at the end of the month? So this is what our online note, our senior contributor here. Are you being paid by OLM? Is OLM board members or maybe executive director? Maybe we need to know the distinction here. You as the executive director, if this is a full-time job, what is in it for you? Check your microphone, let's see. Okay, I think we have in a all right, I think let me just get him off the stage here. Yes, well, bear with us. Okay, let me get him back here. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. All right, good. So Joyce Toto, I don't know why we put Dr. Toto question on and then everything got frozen here. So the question was, are you being paid by OLM?
Yes and no. So let me explain that to you. Mm-hmm. OLM, I was hired as a volunteer executive director. So the contract I have with OLM, I give pay based on what I can bring to the organization, that they can give me the percentage. So it is a challenge for you. When we came here, practically the doors were closed. There was nobody around. you ask yourself the question, is that what you want to do? But like you regularly said, Mr. Zion, Mr. Soul, there are three things to success. The first thing is consistency in actuality and the passion to doing what you like doing. If you are dedicated and you're consistent, you have the passion, you will yield results. Let's reflect back in Waterloo Camp. We were all there, wandering around in a state of boredom. So some of our colleagues, some of who are here today, I told them, I said, listen, we can get together and make a proposal to the United Nations and have something done. Whether it's recreation, whether it's sporting, but we cannot just abandon ourselves, because the only hope we had there was the DIAHN program to have a scholarship to go to school. So I was able to bring around some group of guys, and we drafted a proposal and took it. And one of the criteria, we said we don't want the young people in Waterloo Camp just gallivanting around. Let them be engaged in something, that do sports, that recreate. And the United Nations was able, UNHCR were able to consider us, and they gave us some money. We were able to have a project. We built a basketball court.
Right.
We built a volleyball court. And then we even built a bus stop to assist our peninsula students who sometimes when it's rainy, they happen. You have to have passion in these things to do it. You can visualize what you think you want to take your organization, your people to another level. That motivation, that passion is what drives people to want to do something.
How long have you occupied in this position as executive director of OLM? How long have you been there?
I have been an executive director of OLM since July of 2020.
2020.
Yes. And within the short term, we've achieved a lot. But the road was paved for me, for people that came before me. I always say this. Isaac Newton said, if I saw further than other men, it's because I stood on the shoulder of giants. My predecessors, through very challenging time, took it, the organization was dead. It needed a serious resuscitation. And people before me tried to maintain the life in it so that I can keep breathing, to save it from dying.
And you finalized it.
And those people that resuscitated it to make it vital. And we take it from there, and we take it from the ICU, took it into the what you call
recovery room.
The recovery room. And from the recovery room, we say you can get treatment from home.
How many more?
But like many Liberian organizations, we have challenges. And we sometimes look back at our predecessors and say, oh, well, they didn't do well. But if your predecessor have now pushed it to a certain level, where will you start from? With all the gains we've made within the last 2 years, I always credit it to those people that make the sacrifice before us. Okay, we came from a budget as an organization on $50,000 a year. To 2020, our budget was over 180. In 2022, in 2021, we were able to acquire additional property from what we met. We met one suite. We were able to add additional 2 suites. 5-suite building that we own, and today we own 60% of that. We were able to take OLM budget from there to our last year budget to over 250,000 days. The year before last, 250,000 plus a property that we bought that is almost 300,000. So the net worth in assets and grant that were brought to the organization in 2021 was close to $500,000. In 2022, our budget was 485,000. We have paid volunteer staff and what have you. But these are all challenges. The role we started off did not start from me. It started from people before me. Even though in the short time we were able to make those huge gains, but we also credit the people that came before us.
How many board members on the OLM?
We have 9 board members, and we have an we have a board chairman, we have a vice chairman, and we have a board treasurer. And I, as executive director, I'm the secretary to the board, but a non-voting member.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, nothing is guaranteed. The avalanche is about to unleash. The much talk about what is happening. The consulate, where it go, there's a hot. One of the board members broke the news, who is a contributor on this network. But the consequential question is, after 3 months, where are we? What is the negotiation? What is the preparation? We are hearing the big meeting is on the way. My special guest is the executive director of OLM, KAMATY. We'll be right back. Good evening, folks. Welcome into Radio Land. I am Afonso Ziensot of the Liberia Public Radio and Lpr-Tv. It's about to get a little bit dicey to know what is going on. During the course of the week, news broke. The consulate office in Minnesota will be closing, and that they were about to remove the biometrics machine. Negotiation conversations at a higher level engulfed Minneapolis. Board members boarding here, moving to life and right, emergency meeting being convened, robocall as to how it can be addressed. Last night, right on this network, a board member who is also a senior contributor to the Liberia Public Radio, Sissy Goya, broke the news that there is a temporary halt, 3-month grace period. So the question becomes, after 3 months, what next? What is the preparation right now by the leadership of OLM as we all await the much anticipated meetings? The executive director is here. Let me just bring you in. We are being told that there is a halt. In fact, it was, was that yesterday they was to remove all of that, and there is a halt temporarily now for 3 months. Like establish the authenticities of this news. How true is that? Is there a temporary halt to the closure of the consulate?
The information you are quoting, I don't know the source, but it's correct.
It's correct.
Yes.
Okay. 3 months. The question becomes, most Liberians, including myself, will be asking, what next after 3 months? We've been making a lot of phone calls right within and outside of this country, talking to our correspondent. We are now hearing sooner or later, in the soonest time, the delegation will be dispatched. We are also being told that the president is heavily involved in this one. This is quite interesting, fascinating. What is the preparation in the making, Mr. Director, to embrace this meeting? What is the contingency plan?
Well, first of all, let me use this public forum or this platform to thank His Excellency Dr. George Manawia, President of the Republic of Liberia. In our communication to His Excellency, we stated that he has a vested interest in our diaspora community. And the news that we heard and the decision that was to be taken was going to greatly impact over 200,000 residents that live in 12 states in the Midwest. We were informed on Sunday morning by the Honorable Counselor. I got a phone call. Mr. Executive Director, we've received the communication.
From where?
From the Foreign Ministry that the consulate will be closed. And there is a company called VFS Global will take possession of the biometrics machine to be taken in Roseville, approximately 45-minute drive from Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, where we have a high concentration of Liberians. And that effective February 18th, the council will cease to provide any visa service. So in layman knowledge and language, the council was closing. So I immediately informed the board of directors, the board chairman, and other board members and board executives, and I remained on the phone and contacted all of the stakeholders in the community. And I started to contact people that will be able to engage the government directly. And I was on the phone from that morning until the night, working the phones, and we have pockets of emergency meetings because we have 48 hours to make a break. And we've contacted the different religious leaders. I placed this information in the county head chat room, and it was resolved that I called an emergency meeting the next day, which was the 16th, a Monday. And I called an emergency meeting of the community with all the array of the clergy, all the stakeholders in our community. And it became frantic. People came to the office demanding. I had no answers to give. We are still engaged, like I said. And we did have the community meeting. I have people come into the office, banging at the door. And I said, listen, it's gonna be resolved. We'll have a win. And 1 hour before the meeting, I received a call from one of our community members stating that the deputy minister of foreign affairs wanted to talk to me.
From inside Liberia?
Yeah, directly from Liberia.
It was now escalating, getting to the higher point.
That's correct.
Right. Deputy Foreign Minister did call.
Yes. So and I said, well, who's the foreign minister? Who's the person? They said, Mr. Executive Director, they want the people. And I started to receive a lot of phone calls. I said, I will be more than grateful to speak with him. And I did speak with the deputy minister, the first deputy minister. I wouldn't want to state the name now. And we have the exchange. And I told her the community right now is outraged.
That's why you told the minister?
Yes. I say the person.
And what was her response? Not to interrupt you.
She said, I understand. We are doing everything possible. Our whole intention was to, create a full consulate and was not to disrupt the service. So I said, well, but what it is right now,
it's disruption.
It is just that good. As I'm talking to you, I have the people right now in the committee center waiting for me to start the meeting. I was in my office district. The vice chairman of the board came in, the co-chairman of the board came in, and everybody come in. And then I was able to be transferred to another minister, another deputy minister. And they say, well, can you control the situation?
How?
And I say, how do I control the situation? What do I tell the community members? You got to give me something.
You brought the kingdom upon us.
Yeah. You got to give me something to talk to them with. She said, what do you suggest? I said, Madam Minister, we need a temporary halt to the entire process until we can engage the government. I say I was part of the committee that gracefully, or what I would say, we're fortunate for the then Ambassador Solontek to make us part of this process, establishing the council in 2017. I got a letter from the then ambassador and the foreign ministry. So, and the optics out there to say that this was given to us, we took over 30 years to get to this point, and to tell the people that, oh, it's taken away from us, it's just not a good optics. So the first thing first, if the government can put a hold to this, then we can open a line of communication. She said, Mr. Executive Director, I understand what you said, Mr. Dion, but I can't promise you I have to do a consultation because I can't make that decision.
That's what she said. She got to do a consultation.
Yes. And I said, I'm very grateful, but I have to go to the meeting. And we did go to the meeting. And we try our best to maintain calm. But the mandate I was given to the meeting was that, in fact, we should write the president. The community mandated me, and the board right there, that we should write the president directly and inform him of what is obtained. Right there, we selected a committee to draft the committee. The second was they were going to go to the counseling and avoid peacefully anybody taking the machines, the biometric machines. I also tried to provide in context what the minister had told me. But again, it did not resonate too well. I just said we should all be hopeful. So we convened at Olm office, the committee, the select committee of about how many members here? The select committee, we convened at Olm office that morning. We have about 9 persons. We start to draft the communication, put it into context what the community wanted and the mandate we have from the community. And by 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, some pastors had to leave. We have to do what we did back in Waterloo Camp, what we call a midnight show. We had to cook dry rice and eat a sardine because we were determined to stay at the office that morning until we can get a letter drafted and sent to the president. So by 3 o'clock, everybody else had left. They said, well, Mr. Executive Director, it's on you now. We have this draft and everything now, just you can edit it and put it in context. So I said, okay. So I was alone in the office along with the vice chairman of the board until 5:30 in the morning the next day. And we make sure that we had to contact the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs through his special assistant.
I'm getting some news here. We'll be right back. We are getting some news here. I'm not sure. We will verify the authenticity of this news. Syrian government officials now is telling us that the dispatch will be done as soon as possible before this month come to a closure in the next couple of week or weeks. As a delegation will be dispatched here to have this conversation. Are you getting any information from the authority regarding a delegation coming sooner? This seems to be expedited as fast as possible, very unprecedented. We don't know how it's going to look like, but this is what we are getting. And it's Syrian government officials within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is telling us now that preparation is on the way. Two Syrian government ministers will be arriving very soon. Are you prepared now if they were to come this weekend, next weekend, to have this conversation, Mr. Director?
I think it is consistent with our engagement with the foreign ministry. I don't know what your source of information, but our engagement with the foreign ministry and the government of Liberia is for the government to engage the community in Minnesota and the Midwest so that we can find an applicant. I cannot state exactly the government officials that will be coming an exact date because there are still preparation. It has not been concluded and finalized. So until that is finalized and concluded, I will be coming up and letting the community know the date and time. But yes, and like I was saying, this is very unprecedented. That after we presented or sent a letter to the President of the Republic of Liberia, His Excellency Dr. George Weah, in less than 12 hours, we had a feedback, a temporary resolution. We had asked that let the services of the consular continue until they can have a full-fledged consulate or until the government can engage them. And the ministers I spoke with, I'm glad that what they have promised or what they said they were going to do, the consultation, they yield results. So, like I said, we left on a stage where the consulate was going to be completely closed in 48 hours to where we have additional 90 days. And not only that, but to the extent that the high power delegation will be coming from Liberia to engage the community to find an amicable solution. I think that is exceptional. And I think I want to thank His Excellency Dr. Weah and the government for expeditiously responding to the needs of its people.
Okay, so 3 months, and this is a question of planning too, and Madam Comfort Maminte is asking this question. Is there a closure or change of management of the consulate? And this needs a little bit further explanation as we await to get into this conversation. We hope Lpr will also squeeze time when the delegation comes. We are getting a confirmation, of course, that they're going to be here, and I'm quite sure they're going to be in a very, very shortest time frame. So this here is it the management staff. Let's dwell on the information gathered first. Is it the management staff changing, and or is it a complete overhaul? Now it is what it is. You're going to be going at a negotiation table. What are you going with? What do you intend to go with?
So the government of Liberia reserve the right to choose whoever it wants to run its formation or consulate, honorary consulate, what have you. Our interest as the Liberian community is the continuation of that service. That is Now, with the intricacies, the details, and what other things that come after that, we don't want to engage into that. Our first priority, and what is more crucial to the community, is the continuation of our counseling services in the state of Minnesota and Midwest, in the Midwest as a whole. Those 12 states that have close to 250,000 Liberians that crave those services, we want that to continue. We don't want at the expense of anybody. And I don't want to get into the guessing game or speculation game. My focus here is to carry on the mandate of the community and the Midwest. That mandate is to negotiate, engage the government, engage the foreign minister to have continuous services in it. And that is what our focus is as an organization.
Okay, we always, like you said, would prompt these people that followed our programs and their contributions, their inputs, just add a pageantry to what we do here. This is coming from Madam Tamami Estot Tapi Mo. Say, please ask the question, are they involving other Liberian community members from other states from the Midwest? You already added a layer of Midwest people are direct beneficiaries and stuff like that. So the question now, Mami and many others will want to know what are the leaderships involving other community organizations based in the Midwest?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. In fact, in our communication to the president, we listed the 12 states in the Midwest. But when you have 48 hours to act on a crucial issue, there is not much time to engage 12 Midwestern states before you carry on your negotiation. We, on your behalf, started the process, and on your behalf, engage the government to find a temporary solution. Now that we have a temporary stay, we cannot engage the other 12 states to say, listen, here was the situation. This counselor was dying. Now it just got resuscitation. Okay. Now it's going to ICU to get into recovery. So now we can bring in the expert to see how we can. But at that point in time, we needed to act fast. So we in good faith acted on your behalf to have a temporary resolution so that now we can come back to you and say, look, this is what we did. Let us all come on board and thread this path carefully.
Was there any signal indicating that such a decision was coming, or it was just something that just died on the community overnight, early morning, or whatever time? Was there any signal?
Well, we heard rumors, and I don't like to dive into rumors.
Of his decision.
Yes, we heard rumors about, the counselor. But what concerned us, when the services of the counselor, the days of services reduced. Initially, when it started, it was 5, and it went to 3. When it came to 1 day,
that was alarming.
It caught the attention of the OLM leadership, and we then communicated to the honorary council to know what's going on. We formed a committee. After we communicated to him, we have an audience with him, and he said, look, he doesn't want to speculate, but when he get a official communication, he will let us know. So in fact, we wrote him, he's going to reply us. So when I got the phone call on the morning of the 15th that, I just want to inform you, Mr. Executive Director, I have a communication that say the council is going to close. So that was a 48 hours period to act. There is a thing called you remember when you had the election between what you call the Democratic primary, and we're talking about the rare phone. You have to be able to pick it up at any time. So if you have an emergency situation that needs a swift action and an immediate action, you don't have to do it. And we had to act. We had to act. We could have not just sat back and say, okay, you know what? Let's wait. Look, like I told you, when we got from the meeting ended around 8 o'clock in the night, 8 to 9 o'clock. And the committee said,
I'm on a Security Council meeting.
Yeah. And the committee said, you people all them have to today write a communication and send to the president. We left from there 8 o'clock, 8:30. We got our people in the room. We start deliberation 9:30. If you have about 7 persons in the room, we argue. By 1:30, we have to put dry rice on the pot to cook with sardine to eat. Because just imagine we have not eaten all day.
It was more than Kevin McCarthy speakership.
Okay, so we had to be there, and by 2, 3 other members of the committee said, "No, we got to go." And the Mr. Executive Director, it's up to you now. You can edit the rest and go ahead. And I have to come in my office. And I was here, and the vice chairman said, Mr. Executive Director, I'll be here with you. And we're here until 5:30 in the morning to make sure that that communication go to His Excellency, the President. And we have to do that. So if we're having this result that we're having now, it did not come easily. We have to ensure that this was clearly communicated to the President. We had to engage the Foreign Ministry and to put a temporary halt. It's like when you're bleeding, you need to stop the bleeding first before you start to treat. So our goal was to stop the bleeding. We did not want any form of escalation, and we didn't want any group of people to take advantage of the situation. Because when you have these situations of chaos, people of different political persuasion can manipulate it. Then the focus will be derailed. So we had to adequately manage the situation to maintain our focus and get the necessary redress that is required. You can term it whatever way you want to term it. But that was our mission, and that was our focus. And we have 7 men in the room with 1 lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our contributor analysts, they are also coming. This is a national issue, and they're going to be having a conversation. I know this question may sound so ridiculous based on the information we are hearing, but we can ask the question. You are at liberty, Mr. Executive Director, to play the fifth if necessary. You're now on trial here, so to mention. It appears in the 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, this information will happen. A meeting going to be taking place. Is it possible will OLM consider dispatching delegations in Liberia to neutralize, to soften the ball prior to the arrival of this year, or you already have plan in place? Let me bring in our contributor. You guys can come in the last phase to also chat with the Executive Director, Dr. Kidman Gwetankara is a senior contributor to the Liberia Public Radio, joining us here from the Commonwealth Belt. I thank you so much for coming, Dr. Boy. Yeah, are there any considerations of dispatching delegations in Liberia?
Well, we don't outrule the possibility, but for now, our anticipation is to receive a high-power delegation for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to engage our community. And if that is settled and concluded, we will accordingly inform our community and then make the necessary preparation.
Dr. Churanka, are you there? Good evening. Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. You know, this whole consulate closure to news that came in just driving everybody crazy. Helter scatter here. So don't hesitate if you want to jump inside. So what is, Mr. Director, what is the game plan now if the delegation comes? Is to negotiate that the consulate remain? They have another school of thought, oh, they are giving it to XY people who are not Liberians. There are two major fronts here. What is your strategy as you go in prepare for this sort of conversation? What will you be advocating for? Will you be opening two fronts or one front or multiple, 3, 4?
So you, in this engagement and negotiation, is always a give and take. Our primary focus and goal is that the over 200,000 Liberian residents in the 12 states continue to receive those services. We don't want any form of discontinuation. That's the primary issue and the primary goal. Now, as to who, how, and when, those are issues we can put on the table. Of course, we'll always want things to remain exactly as it is. Okay? But we don't know what the government stands, what lenses the government is looking through. But what we know as a people, as a community, we do not want a discontinuation of those services. If it's the government intention to establish a full-fledged consulate, we are open to it. But until that is done, do not disrupt the services our people are enjoying. It's going to greatly impact them. That is the main focus.
Are you having conversation currently with folks at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs regarding this prior to the arrival of the delegation, Mr. Director?
We have engaged the ministers, the principal deputies. We've been in engagement. I received a communication this morning from one of the principal deputies, which content I can disclose, but it is in that line.
Classified?
Well, I would say because it is still in the working until it is concluded, I don't want to give the content.
Now let's profile a little bit without going into the details to get the full disclosure. The content, is it encouraging? Is it an open one for conversation, for dialogue with the government, with the GOL?
The communication is very promising, very encouraging.
Meaning?
Meaning that they are open to resolution and dialogue with the community.
Okay, that's what we want to hear. Are you inviting other Thai community leaders who are going to be accredited to this meeting? Is it going to be an open meeting, or is it going to be only guys, the big guys in the Beltway, the board members, the executive directors? What would be the format? Have you come to that point, or the community have come to that point? The format, will it be the media going to have access to that sort of conversation?
Of course, the media will have access to any good news and a conversational engagement. But though out of the Midwestern state that are involved, that will be affected, definitely we will have to reach to all of those states. We will also have to reach to the entire Liberian community. This is the Midwest fight, but as we can see, other states that are not in the Midwest sympathize with our challenges and what we're going through. In fact, as you can see, other organizations, in fact, the EULA make its press release in support of the effort. And so definitely, if we conclude those negotiations and we have negotiation on the coming of the, or let's say we have clarities on the exact time and date, and it's fully concluded, we're definitely going to let the information out and let people be part of the process that have to be part of the process.
Okay, I know we don't want to kind of like hijack you. I'm going to be putting number here, Dr. Turankat. Don't hesitate if you have any question. Let me just put it question if we can maybe do you have little time there? Maybe we can get open the line for a few minutes.
Sure.
Just in case, I think this got the attention of everybody, and I think prompt the handlings of this here from the surface we say is good. So we must give the leadership and the people of OLM, we should give them kudos for that. I think sometimes we got a place so everything can go by fire. You got to open a room of conversation. Dr. Taranka, don't hesitate. Okay, folks, for those of you watching, that's the number there, and this is tweet is coming from Mamint Mo here. So thank you so much. We appreciate all of you for the efforts. How can we get in contact to be part of this process? I will be glad to bring this to our leadership, the Northwestern suburbs, Chicago, as we will be having our community meeting this Saturday. So this seems to be very overwhelming. You're getting the support of area Liberians, whether you are within Minnesota or out of Minnesota. And I think it does bring some dividend to the government of Liberia in terms of people getting the passport or doing other foreign businesses there as well. So I mean, everybody are doing what they're doing here. Well, I will call this closure if the council was relocating to Roseville with the same services, but on new management. Again, we ask, was it a closure? Please clarify. Okay, we'll see at the end of the day, but those are the views. So let me just put a number there. If you want to have a word here, this is about Liberia, but I want to say it, Mr. Executive Director, I think the leadership was very spontaneous. We were right on top of it, calling these emergency meetings, and for it to just come to a temporary halt after the decision was made, that is fascinating. And so while we wait here, we don't want to hold you up here for the long years. We're going to be having these conversations. What would be the message? What would you want to be telling Liberians who are listening, people that are watching right now? It is political. It will be political. Political conversation will incite into this year. And the ball is in your lap. What will you be telling Liberians as we await, as the leadership awaits this meeting? What do you anticipate? What do you want them to do?
So, like I first said to the community in Minnesota, in fact, before coming on the show, I sent a robocall to the entire Liberian community in Minnesota that we have good news. We have a temporary solution for now, and that the Liberian government will be engaged in the community to find an amicable resolution to this problem. Yes, and one of the audience asked whether it was a closure. The honorary counselor, the information we got, will cease to carry any functions such as representing the Liberian government that entails issuing of visas. Well, the communication did not make clear as to whether the VFS Global that was taking charge of the machine for the purpose of passport application will be issuing visa. The letter directed the Liberian resident to obtain visa in Washington, D.C. or New York.
Okay.
If my understanding, now, I just clarify for that person. So if my understanding is that if you were receiving visa in the state of Minnesota, and then you're no more going to receive visa, but you have the ISIS visa through New York and Washington D.C., then the act of giving visa in Minnesota has a closure. It's in that context.
Okay, let me go to this number here quickly. Thank you so much. 832 number 1441. Good evening, caller. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Ambrose Callon, and I'm somehow a regular caller on this show. And I'm calling from Louisville, Kentucky. And Mr. Sue, how you doing?
Good.
And how to the studio guest?
No, thank you for calling.
Yeah, I know I joined the show late, but I just got a couple of questions. I know we're talking about the councilor in Minnesota, but I got a couple of questions I want for him to educate me. My first question would do with if the government decide to hire a new company, would that company need to go through a process of vetting to be sure that they can work on behalf of the Liberian councilor or to issue Liberian passport or represent Liberia as a councilor?
So I am not a diplomat expert, but my lay knowledge that I have, given the fact when we started the process of vetting during His Excellency Ambassador Slonte, they engaged the community in Minnesota directly, and I was chairman on that select committee when I was a board member. There was a requirement, and I think the Liberian government will have to submit that person's name to the United States government, and they will do their in-house security clearance and everything, and then they will get a feedback to Liberian government. So there is a process to do done. So it's not like they just say tomorrow you are Consul General, your days are happening automatically. It's a process between two governments, and you have to go through the clearance system. So yes, there's a process you got to go through. If I answer your question.
So okay, my follow-up would be why the Liberian government just bluntly wants to relocate wants to change the consular or turn over the counseling to a Ghanaian company when they have to be vetted or they have to get approval from the State Department.
So let me make that clarity. It would be disingenuous. I did not say they were turning the consulate over to a Ghanaian company. In fact, as a matter of fact, I did ask the minister, the biometrics machine is not owned by the Liberian government. The biometrics machine was only being taken by a company called VFS Global. That is.
But it's a Ghanaian company, though.
Can you respond to the question?
Can I answer your question? So the purpose of that machine going from the consulate to VFS Global is for the purpose of passport application. So you will do your biometrics, and that will be sent to the Republic of Liberia, where the passport will be processed and will approve for it, and then they give it to you. That was the understanding I got from the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. The passport was not going to be issued by this company. It was going to be issued by the Liberian government. You are only going to be doing your biometrics, and they will send it to Liberia. And there was an understanding that they have an agreement with DHL that will expedite the process, and you pay an additional $60.
I have a question, Mr.
We talk about a foreign national or foreign country company doing our biometric. Would there be any conflict of interest, or without expose our passport to a foreign national?
So once again, let me say this to you. The whole context, the whole idea of honorary consul is not limited to Liberian residents. You know, other countries in the world do that. The honorary consul, it can be any national, okay? It doesn't have to be a Liberian. And it is the government of Liberia prerogative to do such. So we cannot say, okay, because the government decides to do that. We have other Liberian nationals that hold honorary consul position for other country. So the determination is made by the government. It is not something out of the wood. It happens.
Okay, hold on. I think hold on 1 second. Let's do it one at a time. Was it somebody else was asking?
I was saying that I had a question after he answers.
Oh, okay, Dr. Turonka, go ahead.
Sir, I guess when I first heard of the news, my initial concern, besides the economic hardship and jurisdictional hardship that many of the Liberians in the Midwest, especially Minnesota, will feel, is the timing, especially knowing we are on the brink. And I don't know if you addressed this issue. I logged on the show around 9:40, so I'm not sure if you addressed it, and I apologize for being a bit redundant. The making it almost impossible or at least hard for many Liberians who want to travel during this election season. We get a high degree of travelers going to Liberia, especially in such a time. Does that timing concern you? And do you think there was any strategy as to why we would have this closure or temporary closure in this season instead of perhaps waiting for this season to be over before this is done?
So, what's your name again? Dr.
Tharanka, Kama Tharanka, Way Tharanka, but you could just say Kama.
Okay. All right, Dr. Tharanka. Thank you very much. This sentiment you expressed was shared by many people in our community, even in the town hall meeting. Okay, one now. And like I said again, and this was some of the reason when we have the mandate for our community members during the meeting, kept us in the office until 5 a.m. in the morning to make sure that we were able to, on their behalf, engage the government. And I can say this to you, this is totally unprecedented. In diplomatic engagement, if you engage in your government, never before in the history have I heard that people in the diaspora community engage the government, and in less than 12 hours, you have a rapid response with a resolution and a willingness to engage the community further. Look, let's call spade a spade. Okay, the government of the Republic of Liberia did a citizen due diligence, and I think the government of Liberia has a vested interest in the diaspora community to expeditiously act and give a temporary hold. And not only that, it is following up by coming to the United States in the Midwest to engage its citizen. It's unprecedented. It's like you can't express it any further. You know, we should be very grateful. You know,
absolutely.
Very, very grateful. We should be thankful. Okay, because the government also had the right to choose how to do so. Okay, that we could, our communication could go through the diplomatic porch for the foreign minister, and it would take even weeks before the president even get to know about it. And by that time, the damage will have already been done. So, but within 12 hours time, you have your government, your president to respond fair play, and then not stop people intend to further engage the community to find resolution to the problem.
I would say that was the appropriate thing to do, the right thing to do, and also it is in his best interest to have done that swiftly, because he does benefit from a lot of people traveling back to help with this season that we're in. It's a critical season. So I'm not saying it's selfish reason, but it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad that he did the right thing in such a short period of time, or the government period did the right thing. But I also feel that it would have been detrimental, I believe, because from my understanding, the government, this facility that is temporarily closed down or whatever it is, they were not funding it. So I don't know how it was under their, according to, I think, George, the person that was in charge of it, the businessman that was in charge of it, that they were not funding the facility or paying rent or anything like that. But the fact, you're absolutely correct, that they were able to control and mitigate this damage that quickly. Yes, absolutely. We do appreciate that, because it would have been a bit disastrous. It would have just looked as if they're the one perpetrating this. So in their benefit, I believe that was the right thing to do.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
Dr.
and I agree with
Let me make one
what you
clarity for you.
guys.
Let me make one clarity to your statement, Dr. Tonga. The honorary counseling is now funded. Its operation is not funded by the Liberian government.
Correct. I understand that.
So to imply that the government is not paying rent is part of the package. Like I said, I was the chairman on the committee alongside with the then ambassador. So all of the criteria were listed down. And honorary counseling is believed to have people that have those positions, are people that already are established business owner and they have the resources to finance the day-to-day operation. So the government of Liberia need not to fund money. The government of Liberia can fund a full-fledged consulate and not an honorary consulate.
Embassy.
Correct.
Okay, let me go to the caller. Caller, what's your last caller time? We're going to be going back to our. What's your last question to me? Caller, are you there? Oh, let me unmute you. Caller, are you there? What's your last question? Caller 832, are you there?
I got a question. I have a question because from what I've researched or I saw on YouTube, on Google, they said that the company that's trying to do that biometric had an issue in Britain. I don't know if the Liberian government is aware of they have some issue in Britain. That's why they're trying to relocate or they're looking for getting out of Britain.
So if I may ask you, are you having interest? Okay, let's move VFS or whatever it is, move it out of the way and bring American firm, probably would be more or less will believe in, and say they are moving it out of Minnesota. Which one will you want to argue for?
Okay, I'm not in favor of being relocated from Minnesota, and my argument would be if the Liberian government feel that the current person that is doing it is not doing it to their satisfaction or they need to change hands, I think they should open it up to Liberian or put an announcement out. They can use your station, they can use different media, so Liberian can apply to take that country instead of giving it to a foreigner. I'm not against Ghanaian or against any foreigner, but I think we should give Liberian the opportunity to expand or to get involved in some Liberian activities instead of giving it to foreign companies.
Okay, thank you so much. And we also want to mention, and I never heard the executive. Mr. Director, you want to respond?
So I don't want my brother to go with the notion the honorary council is different from a council general and a full-fledged council or the embassy. Those are things that are given to foreign nationals. Honorary council. That's why they say honorary. It's like they say you honorary citizen.
Just confer something on you.
Yeah, that's what they confer to you. Okay? So to say, well, you have to give it to Liberians and that Liberian apply, there are certain criteria you have to meet. I was in Sierra Leone before when we were there and during the refugee time. We have this guy that was the honorary Belgian consulate. He was a French guy. Okay, he's not from Belgium, but he has his a construction company.
Right.
Okay, you go in Liberia. Okay, you have other people that are different nationalities that are honorable consul. So the notion that is a job for all Liberians to come, I don't want you to have that. It's the government prerogative to choose whoever foreign national. Our concern should be here, and I want to keep the focus. Our focus is that all of us that live in the 12 states in the Midwest, for us to continue to have these services should be the thing that is paramount. Let the government make its own determination. But what is important, we need to have the services continuously. That should be our focus.
All right. Caller, thank you so much for participating. And,
okay, thank you for taking my call. Thank you for taking my call.
All right. So, okay, Dr. Toto, welcome to the conversation. 25 minutes to go. Mr. Director, I think this is a worthy conversation. And I think this is what it needs to be made clear, because it seems to be people mixing it up here and they want to make it black and white. It should be stone. It's a Liberian thing, so every like it should be Liberian anyhow. And I don't think it would be a good strategy to open 3 different fronts. You want the councillor to stay, and other people want it. Oh, they should be, this way. But Dr. Toto, let me just bring you in here. Good evening and welcome.
Yeah, good evening. Also, good evening to my brother, KAMATY.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you. Been a long time.
Been a long time.
Yeah, the only point I want to make to the whole discussion regarding the council issue in Minnesota, the government has a priority and the prerogative to who to appoint to be the councilor general. And the office for under the affair of the foreign ministry, they want to appoint. I think what the Liberian community try to advocate for is the population of Liberia in that region. People living from that coming to the U.S., coming to Washington D.C. to process passports and all about biometric activity in Washington D.C. It just a huge setback for the community. I think that's where the community coming from to advocate, and also to the decision the government want to take. That seems that that's true that the 90 days over the government made that decision. I think whatever decision the government should try to avoid politics out of here. It shouldn't be based upon politics, because maybe certain people that get read in the council office, but they're not working the interest. Maybe they're trying to link them in a political institution. That's why they want to make that decision. I hope not so. If they want to make the decision, it's follow their priority. And they know the pros and cons that which they make the decision for is good for their interest. It's good, but then they try to avoid politics out of it, because some of the rumors that we're hearing is like people that work in the office of the council, they are not in support of the government. They are taught something about the government, and that's the reason why the government trying to do a change the management or
Right.
get there. So these are the rumors that are out there. So if the rumors are authentic, they are not saying it is a good move, but it's now a good move for the government. We just hope that whatever best decision they make, and I applaud the community for that. Community, you guys are doing extremely well. The community and the advocacy that you guys are doing there, we follow it, and the engagement that going on so far. I give you guys a hands up. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we give credit to where to whom it is due. I mean, first time, the government was very spontaneous. I mean, to quickly come to the center to say, okay, we need to have a second thought. Let's open a corridor of conversation. That's huge. That's significant. One could greatly guess to say, okay, they might have a second thought. And you're quite correct. We don't know the decision. It is what we perceive, what we're getting. We don't know the in-depth of the government decision as to how this thing came, how it came down automatically like that. And we don't want to preempt that. And since they are open to conversations, I think the leadership is willing to do that. Because, and like you rightfully said, because people talk to different people. Other people are saying, the gentleman that is there, I don't know how true it is. I'm not going to conveyed here in absence without me talking to him. He's not reporting to the ambassador, blah, 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 all sort of conversation out there. But is that a way for the GOL to go? Now they have a second thought, they are listening to their citizens. So I think we should give room for this sort of conversation. And I think we must applaud the government for having a second thought, because they could say, okay, you know what? The decision is already made. We're not doing it. What we'll do, we'll scream here. A lot of worst thing has happened in the country, and people jump in the street, do what they can do, and today is still there. So this one here, giving it a break, and we're now hearing that a delegation will be dispatched. That's a huge room of opening a room of conversations, and we hope that that will be a good thing.
So again, I'm very glad, Mr. Sola, you said that. Like I said, our focus here is to foster the interests of the resident of Minnesota and the 11 states. Okay? When you are on the negotiating table with the government and they are as responsive as they are given the situation, you want to first appreciate that gesture. You want to be able to open corridors for good exchange, And I think at the end of the day, our goal here is the continuation of the services that these 12 states receive. We have over 200,000 Liberian residents in these 12 states. It would impact us gravely if we were to revert to Washington, D.C. and New York again to access visa and other services. So, and that was the plea we made to the government of Liberia, to the president. And like I said again, in less than 12 hours, we got the response that we asked for. We wanted a temporary halt and an engagement. And they said, okay, we will put a temporary halt. We are going to engage you before we're going to come over. And who knows? They could be here within the next 2 weeks. So let's open up our corridor. Let us be receptive. You know, let us embrace that for the sake of our community and the sake of our people. And that is our focus.
I think that we appreciate that. I mean, because like I said, the financial hardship to the Midwesterners, and then especially those in Minnesota who had access to that service and would have had to route everything to DC or New York. Certainly, there's certain degrees of hardship, financial hardship, jurisdictional hardship. All of that play a role. And we certainly do. I mean, when we have crisis in our communities, the reason we have people in our government, that we hire people in our government, or when I use the word hire, not in a financial sense, but put them in office, is to be able to come to our aid when we are in crisis. So again, we do appreciate and applaud this swiftness, because like you said, it didn't have to answer this swiftly. However, we can now move past the fact that they're doing what they're supposed to do. I think they stand to benefit for how they appear to react in this, because we are in a very sensitive season. So we also benefit from that. If they're acting as swiftly as they can because they don't want to look bad in the election season, then that's good. But we move past that now and say, okay, now you have responded. Let us, let the resolution be effective. Let us have a resolution that we can effectuate in an expeditious manner, so that this does not spill over and begin to create a crisis again. Because now that you've proposed that, yeah, we're willing to help. And again, I totally and very appreciate, like you said, they didn't have to act, not even as swiftly as they did. But it's almost like saying, when your parents give you food, you're like, oh, thank you for giving me food when you're young. That's your obligation. I mean, it depends how swiftly you do it. The appreciation comes from how swiftly they acted. But I want to move past the fact that you are doing what you are supposed to do as a government in such a situation, because the people in your diaspora, you didn't have to act as swiftly in the diaspora. But when you look at it from the other side of the mirror, what choice do they have? I mean, here are some people who you have over 200,000 when you kind of combine all of the Midwesterners, or that most of whom going to travel this Christmas, travel for the elections, travel during the election, some important people. So instead of that process being stalled and then discouraging people from traveling, because this will discourage people if we don't have anything in place, because nobody wants to be jumping through hoops. Inflation is high all over. Nobody's trying to come to New York, spend a night in DC just to get a passport. So that was going. So whoever advised the president, like, we need to act, or if he advised himself that we need to act expeditiously, I'm glad they did. But I'm not going to keep applauding because they did. Okay, you say you did. Now let's see what you have in place, with the appreciation that you didn't have to, not this quickly. So that's just my 2 cents. And there is a stake in it.
Amos George, welcome. So, Mr. Director, let me ask you here. Now, with what we are hearing, the dispatch of a delegation, this seems to be one could make an educated guess. The president is in the know of what is going on now, correct? Is that you? Is that something you thinking? Because now, when official leaving from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs coming, it means that the president, perhaps he does get a tip off now of what's happening.
Let me add to that question too, Mr. Director, before you talk. Or the delegation coming, are they coming to meet the community or they coming to meet the consulate?
The request was for the Liberian government to engage the community. The issue is the proposed, or what is it, the then decision by the government to the consulate was referred to us, and that's why we took it to the government. So our request was for them to have a temporary call, give us the breathing space, and to engage us directly, and that's what they did. So they are coming to engage the community directly through the community leadership.
Mr. Chairman, I was in and out of the conversation, but I just want to ask you. The government has been employed for doing this, but I want to know from you first thing. Now they're getting all the flowers. What was the thought? Were the community approached before taking that decision, or because the community backlash is not coming in?
No, and that's saying
the question has to do with it.
I'm afraid I'm not hearing you.
Did you answer that one first, or?
Oh no! Can you repeat the question? You broke out.
Can you repeat your question, please, Joyce?
My question has to do with.
Yeah.
I'm coming. What I was asking is that I hear all this applause not giving the government, but my question to you: did the government take into account how many Liberians in the 12 states in the Midwest before making that decision to change the consulate or to also the job at that time? Did they thought of that? Did they consult with people? Or because the backlash now they're getting is why they're acting upon?
So I don't know. I can't speak for the government what the thought process was, but all I can say, the government did not tell us, but I don't think the government need our permission to take a decision. If the government tell us, it will be courtesy, we appreciate and embrace that. But we were made to be understand. We were made to know about this through our honorable council, and then the time frame was too short, so we had to then engage the government for redress, like any group of citizens would do to their government. So with their fairness, we say, and I think it's the government responsibility as well to cater to its citizenry, and we have the right to do peaceful demonstration as a means for the government to listen to our appeal, petition, and what have you. So we did it in the context that we needed redress because the situation was going to be going to gravely impact our community. But to answer your question directly, no, we didn't have that, and two, we only get to know about this through our honorable council.
Yeah, you know, I was listening to
the government.
We're not hearing you, Pa Josh.
And let me. Yeah. Now, you don't think the government is an obligation if taking such a major decision to inform its citizen, or just the council, just to talk to the council? That's it. You think that was the appropriate way or diplomatic way to go about taking into account you got over 300,000 people in that area, and if you want to change anything there, you don't think it would be a matter of courtesy to just inform the citizen or through the council to say, hey, give this information out to the people that this place will be closed or will be moving to this area? You don't think something that going down that line, I'm talking to you directly, but just informing the council, the consulate, they're, hey, we are doing this, we can inform the citizen. But I think the letter was directly to the council to say, hey, this office will be closed as of this date.
So again,
when the citizen taking into account,
Again, Mr. George, I can't speak for the government. I'm not in the hands of the government. But what I do know, when this decision was communicated to us, when we engaged the government, they were very receptive and they responded favorably to our request. So that's what so far that I think we want to take from there. Uh, if we were to pick it back on this, okay, the fact that they didn't tell and they told the honorable council, so that is the right path of the diplomatic porch, the turn of communication from the foreign ministry to the ambassador, from the ambassador to all the consulates and the council. Or the foreign ministry can even communicate directly to any of the fee officer also in the foreign area. But what we're saying is that we can't question the government why they didn't send a direct communication to us. I don't think that's the normal procedure to write us and say we want to close it.
No, I didn't say that. I'm
Okay.
sure now why they didn't send it to you directly.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying here is that, Mr. Josh, is that well,
My question was,
as long as the communication was given to us and were brought into the know officially, we acted as a community swiftly, and the government responded swiftly in favor of us. And that what to us
Yeah.
that matters for now.
I think what is of more important now to rally around the leadership of Minnesota, send us suggestions, proposals, idea as to how to. Yes, in fact, we don't know the minds of the government, and we don't want to make preemptive, this decision
okay, but let
here
me just
based on
let me
past
just
history.
Let me ask a question also too.
yeah.
Yeah, coming back to
Ask-
Toto.
yeah,
So it's also.
Is it a,
Uh,
no, I just want to ask my final question, then we can move on. I just want to know: is it a consulate? Is it are the government establishing a consul general or honorary consulate?
So what we have in the state of Minnesota is an honorable consulate.
Okay.
Okay.
honorary.
We do
yes.
not have a full-fledged consulate or consul general.
Yeah.
The consulate is in New York. The embassy is in Washington, D.C.
Washington.
So yes. So what our understanding, the information we gather, it is the intention of the government to upgrade the honorable consul, honorable consulate to a full-fledged consulate. That is the understanding. That's information we got. However, we are saying the government intend to do that. We embrace that as well. But in the meantime, we just want a continuation of the services that we receive in the Midwest. That's our main goal.
Okay. Dr. Toto, go ahead, and then we're going to have our guest to make his final statement before.
Yeah, I just want to honor something from our guest. When you were speaking earlier on, you were talking about the biometric machine that are supposed to be delivered to another third party before the whole issue came to a halt. And the community were trying to put their second guest or protest. So I just want to know, just for the listening audience, is the community are going to protest to stop the biometric machine from leaving the council office or what?
Well, the community was stationed a peaceful protest so that it would disrupt peacefully the process. And that was only sending a message to our government that, look, we are not in favor of this. It's a means of expressing ourselves to our government. Well, no biometric machine were taken away from the honorary consulate area, and it remains as it is. Visa will continue to be issued. Application of passport will continue for the next 90 days.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the biometric machine, like I said earlier, when somebody asked a question, would the Liberian government don't own them? That's what I made to understand.
Okay.
And with respect to VFS, understand before the government contract those organizations, those institutes, businesses or corporations to produce things, whether it's passport or what have you. And some of these things are outsourced to companies that are non-Liberian companies. Okay. So my understanding is that the government of Liberia have a contract with VFS that is being upheld. So that's the same clarity I made in the community meeting, that no, the Liberian government did not own the machine. So to say we're taking our Liberian machine to give it to a foreign entity, that would be an incorrect information, and I don't want to mislead the community members.
Okay, Mr. Executive Director, we want to thank you so much for really opening up here with us here this evening, and we hope this is going to be a continuing process here moving forward. We shouldn't wait until there's crisis management, and then yeah, I think it's important to hear from all of you guys here. But to be off from, I don't usually give praises, but the swift action by the leadership and the people of Minnesota to have kind of like quiet down the tensions is remarkable. And I think peaceful conversation, you know, we got to give it to our people, to our leaders too. Whether they are national leaders or local leaders, want to do a good job. It doesn't matter that we appease people. That's not the point. But the idea of all able to manage situation from escalating to kind of decrease it and provide room, a breathing room for everybody, that's what we should also remember. You know, just before you close, when I was getting home this event, NPR is my favorite network that I listen to. And then I was listening, Microsoft. I was listening, the reporter said Microsoft blasts a memo that as of today, 10,000 jobs being cut. And everybody going helter-skelter. Well, people say it's a private entity, but things happen. With the economy, we will know. What are these persons that were declared persona non grata by the other government, and it was being done on the governmental level? We don't know. Let's wait and see when they come and have this sort of conversation here. But I think the leadership, the OLM, on your watch, and your other co-workers, that was a good intervention, timely intervention. This is what leadership is all about. Now I'm going to lift the band I temporarily put between us two on this program here. I said, like, until the show finishes, I'm removing my own temporary part here. But it's not a surprise in terms of what you do. We were in a refugee camp. You stood up for the tax challenge. How do you call it? Say the what do you call Australians? SSD.
SSD.
And then with a red barrel, when you see them, when they talk one time, you see them, you so fearful, you challenge them. And we saw what happened to our chairman emeritus. He went to jail. That's why he was a refugee. And our UNHCR commissioner, Mr. Chanda, you remember him. And everybody, all of us was going here to scatter. You not Liberian, but we not move from here. You spoil your country, you want, you know. And you know, so sometimes peaceful negotiations finds good resolution. I want to thank you so much for your time, and we are looking for, hopefully, like we are being told here by a source that a delegation will be dispatched in the soonest possible time. We are looking forward to being part of that conversation. What is your take-home message for our viewers, listeners, and people that are listening? Even in Liberia, don't be surprised when Bakuba say is listening here as well.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Soul. And I want to thank this platform, this LPR radio and TV. It's come a long way. It has evolved from a little big information highway to this gigantic path of information dissemination in the diaspora community and back home. And I think most people look at this medium as a source of getting information with the ability to strike the balance in the story and giving people of both sides the opportunity to articulate their view. And I'm very grateful that you have me on this forum. And to be quite honest, I was like pinching myself. This boy, he can't give people a chance. So I wish, can poke me today. But on a serious note, I'm very happy, and to you guys, the panelists, Mr. Toto, Dr. Toto, Mr. George, and Dr. Branko. I want to thank you all for the honest exchange of view, and that is very important in this age, information age. I want to first of all use this forum to once more express my sincere thanks and gratitude to His Excellency Dr. George Manuel Weah for having and the diaspora community with the 12 states having residents of over 200,000 people. This relief could have not come at a better time. In diplomatic engagement, never before in the history of Liberia have I heard of any international community that within less than 12 hours when the community engaged their president and government, you have such a rapid response. For this, I'm very grateful. I want to thank the honorable ministers that we communicated with, the government of Liberia. We look forward to receiving you. We look forward to having a frank engagement with your community, your constituents, and so that we can have a peaceful resolution to the stigma or the who have been stigma in our community. What our focus is the continuation of those services that we've created for over 30 years. Our community have been seeking a counseling, and we were very happy to have that established in 2017. I was one of those people that sat on the panel to vet those people. And today we have enjoyed the services. So we just is appealing again to the government to continue the services so that our people in the Midwest can be relieved of any potential pain, suffering, and deepening our pocket. Again, to the Liberian community and the 12 states, I want to urge you all to be calm and let's embrace this temporary solution as our government is about to engage us. And I'm very optimistic from an engagement with the foreign minister, the deputy foreign minister, and other government officials that there is certainly a light at the end of the tunnel. We can disagree to agree. I don't want anybody to take advantage of the situation uh, to make it muddy than what it is. We will, at the end of the day, all come together as one people. Our diversity is embedded in our commonality as a people. The stronger we can hold together, the better we can achieve a lot. So thank you very much. Let us remain calm and embrace this engagement. Thank you very much.
Well, folks, that's the voice of KAMATY DIAHN, is the executive director of the organization's Liberians in Minnesota, OLM. Mr. Executive Director, thank you so much. The band between us is hereby lifted. The friendship continues. The match is over. And we're looking forward to having this conversation. But on a serious note, I think the leadership on your watch did an extraordinary job. Great intervention, very spontaneous, soften the ball, stabilize the tension. And here we are giving a breathing room for the 3 months, 90 days window. That puts you in a position to if anything is to happen and people will say, okay, and that's what we want our leaders, our community leaders to do. That they should intervene when there's a crisis. They should have, they should exercise tolerance. They should be stable even. And I know when I tell you that, I say, okay, well, I'm going to meet you. You didn't tremor, you didn't get confused, and that's how it was handled. Thank you so much. We wish you best of luck. We will.
It would not be a justice that I get all the praises and everything, but there were 7 persons in a room that made the sacrifice to be with. Even though I'm the executive director, we have Reverend Dr. Francis Tapler, the senior pastor for the Ebenezer Church in Minnesota. I have one of the BKS Elephant. He was in that room. We have Pastor Stephen Cole. He runs his bigger church. He was in that room. We have Pastor Alexander Collins. He was in that room. We have Imam Mohammed Dukle, who is the Imam for the West African community. He was in our room. We have our vice chairman of the board, Mr. Atabia. He was in our room. We have one Mr. Samson William. He was in our room. And the only female was Cole Guano, the daughter of the late Dr. Say Guano. She's a lawyer. She was in our room, the only female, along with me. So we were 8 people in our room. We were determined by the mandate of the community that we cannot leave that room until we produce a communication to the president, and that task was given to me. So when everybody left, I had to remain there until 5:30 in the morning to make sure that was done before I left that room. And so I want to take this time to thank them for their services to the community. Your hard work has yielded some result. Let's continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, man. It was more than Mish McConnell speaker. Speaker Shay Elijah. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, in the last few minutes, we get to go. This is a very important issue because we saw how hairs was rolling, what was happening, how this decision came. I think our focus now to see when the delegation shows out, as we've been hinted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, someone telling us that the delegation is expected in the sunniest time possible that we anticipate. So everything seems to be moving, Dr. Toto VV here. So you being a community leader, led the Union Librarian Association, ULA, another rock and roll organization in terms of the engagement with different forms of government. What position do you think he finds himself now in terms of the engagement? And with your expertise as being a former community leader, what should be his focus at this point?
I think first of all, let me commend the community, for taking a good step, engage the president, because many times we are seeing, as president for the Edinburgh organization, ULA, the president in this country back to back, he has had town hall meetings, and he has been more like a political town hall meeting. Yeah, that he engaged in ULA, to spearhead the town hall meeting. That when Mother Eddie Johnson said he was president, when Mother Eddie Johnson said he was president, when he engaged her, when she come to America, she'd be like being a diaspora. Irrespective of Unity Party or town hall meeting were non-political. Everybody from the both eye, whether from Unity Party or CDC or any political institution, were all used to tell Mother Eddie Johnson said he town hall meeting, but with President Weah, since he came, all the town hall meeting they're having in the US here, he has been more like a partisan-based town hall meeting. You engage a party. So for what happened in Minnesota recently with the council issue, I think the community put their foot down. That's the reason why we were here. We say, why we have to get a result and engage the president. And the president often responded that, that's good. We should give the community the credit for that. But when it comes to these things, I don't know what decision government will take it or they even try to make that decision. What were they going in their mind? You have a populated community area, especially the Midwest, where we have a huge population of our people there. All of a sudden, they want to close the council, they will take it to different location. I don't know why. I don't know why. Really, problem to ask to take that decision first. So that will happen when the delegate come to engage the community. That should be the
Do we need to ask that question, Dr. Toto? Why they even took that decision? Why were they propping their head? It's something that the community don't know about, because if you said the action that led to that decision, whatever they come,
if the government want to make a change in a diplomatic course or whatsoever, they say, hey, you say the one want to elevate our service or another high level. That's the reason I take the decision. Then they just say something. If it's political, or why, we are in an election season right now. Things are getting hard, and the government right now going for election too. If you're not in the government, if you occupy high office position, you're not for the government. Well, probably the government will come after you too. You know what? We saw it when the government took over duty. They went after people that were not in support of them. They went to the town chief, county leaders, and other people. We saw the vice president make open statement with some chief were dismissed from that position. So the government have a history of this thing. So maybe that same thing will happen to council office, that people that work there that are support the present government. That's the reason why they want to change them for. That's another question to be asked.
Even if that's the case, I'm not sure whether it warrant closure. Let me bring in Dr. Toronka here. We're trying to find a common ground. We try to find a solution. What the administration, the people of Minnesota have done was to stabilize the situation and then find a workable solution way out. You heard the executive director here. And I think he's taking a kind of very strategic position. You don't want to open many fronts because he who wants all loses all. So his focus, hey, this is servicing over 200 some more thousand Liberians. It also brings in dividends to national government, people getting passport, getting here and there, and all of that. That could be a valid argument point they will be making. And his goal here is, hey, we want the services that we are enjoying right here. It is the GOL, the government determines who's to get contract, where they're coming from. It's not a full-fledged embassy. What do you think should be their focus at this point in time? Now delegation is coming. They have to organize themselves. They have to put things in order to make a convincing argument to the government of the Republic of Liberia why this embassy it should be here. I'm not sure. Should they ask them why you took this decision? It's not mixing things out. Why not find the solutions and then later on and see, hey, do we need to know if there's anything we can do as a community to help? Should we focus on that point?
I think I sort of agree with you in the sense of the decision's already been made, and then they backtracked when there was pressure put on them, right. And they agreed to kind of talk to the community leaders. And we do commend the community leaders, especially the director, for stepping in so quickly to try to salvage such a problem that was going to be catastrophic across the nation, especially in the Midwest. When they get the opportunity to meet these leaders, I think they should lead with a resolution so that they can have a resolution in place. Asking why did they take the decision, I don't think they're going to get an effective answer, because I don't know what would have been behind this motivate this kind of decision in this season. I think the timing was wrong. Now, if they're saying that they are closing the honorary consulate because they want to spring up a full-fledged consulate, I think what the community leaders, the community have to be pushing is, even if you are going to do that, do not shut down until that happens, because you don't know when it will happen.
Look, Dr. Toronka, not to interrupt you, that one, it doesn't sound too right to say, okay, because we want to do an upgrade. Okay, if you want to do an upgrade, remember you heard the executive director saying he was involved in this sort of conversation. That was being engagement with the community. Hey, we're going to be having a temporary halt because we want to do X, Y, Z. Then there's a chain of command that they can communicate. But to say we want to close it and then we upgrade it,
I don't think that'll work. But it'll be the same. It will be the same harm, irreparable harm to them to close it because they're trying to do. So they have to come in with the idea of maintaining a temporary hub until whatever it is they want to do. So the services are still going to be provided. But one of the points that I'm keep driving at is, I applaud the directors. I applaud the community leaders. I applaud their actions. I applaud their bravery for saying we're going to go straight to the president with this issue, and the president responding. Now, if you flip it, what detriment would it have been if he didn't respond as swiftly as he did? It would have casted him in a bad light. So he had no choice in this particular season. I don't think they would have gotten that swift of a response if we were not in election season. They probably would have gotten a response, but they probably would have jumped through the hoops. Again, it was to their benefit. Now, as I was saying, let's now focus on a solution. Don't turn the whole thing off create a temporary resolution while there is a talks for a more permanent resolution. I mean, you do have over 200,000 people who receive the services, and making them come all the way across the nation. It is a financial hardship. You're talking about plane tickets. You're talking about financial. You're talking about mailing stuff, and then however the setup is, losing their passport because of this whole mailing system. I mean, it could be catastrophic if they do not maintain that in Minnesota and try to say they should come. Why they came at this decision without, I think at Dr. Toto's point, I think it was Pat George's point, before you came to this resolution, why didn't you talk to your community leaders? How would this have impacted them in the first place? What would have been the financial catastrophe on the community if we do this? That's actually having the diaspora interest at heart. But they did it. There's a backlash. They reacted. Great. It's like I said, you're feeding your child, and you say, well, thank you so much for giving me food today. Yeah, you're supposed to give me food. Yes, you're supposed to take care of it. This is your mess. Take care of it.
Okay. So in a nutshell, if you were providing legal counsel to this executive leadership that will be meeting the team, their focus now is, hey, not to really look behind, because the damage was already been done.
It's already done. I mean,
yeah, so I pretend that I don't even know whether it ever existed. All I want now, let it be met, let it be, and they should focus on the positive aspect.
That's right.
What it does to the community and even to the very government. And OIL is a very powerful organization. Most of these people, even the CDC ruling establishment, all of their gurus, they are all folks from Minnesota. So they are people that know them. So
I don't think they would get an honest answer or anything that makes sense under the circumstances. So why focus on why did they do it? They shouldn't have been in the first place. So now that they're open to resolution, go in and hold them to their feet, because right now, like we all say, the iron is hot. Shape it the way you want to, and I think they're at a good advantage right now. They're sending people, shape it while it's hot.
I mean, honestly, CDC government is not really noted to be spontaneous when it comes to this sort of crisis. But to see this one, that we must also know there's a political season, so the government is aware of some political.
It is. That's why I'm saying it's a motivation to act so swiftly. Yeah. It really is. It would be a huge
political consequence if you don't listen. Amos Joy.
Correct.
By Josh.
I got look. So yeah.
When I hear you, Mr. Josh.
Yeah.
But Joe, where are you today?
There are two issues.
All of the ANC people, they name different devices.
If that generator that
can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you now.
Listen, there are two factors involved. Money and politics. Money and politics. That's it. This whole thing here is based on money and politics.
That's right.
The foreign minister of what the government like Liberia, they have gotten money from whatever group that they want to shape that institution over to. They're feeling that this guy who was there were not dancing to the song. And now it's time for him to go. Period. And he's not partisan of the CDC. I can tell you that. So those are the factors involved in this whole thing here.
I don't, Mr. Joyce.
Yeah.
I don't think it's. I don't think it's a fair. That's your view, but I don't think he's not. Of course, he's not a partisan. He's been there from having time. Yeah. So even if it is happening now, so let's say, suppose you are a sitting government. If you have a person in your as a ministerial occupy a ministerial position and is not promoting your agenda, do you think you want to still have that person in position?
Mr. So that's hypothetical. They have not told you anything, and they don't owe us any explanation. But if this man had not been performed for the past 6 years and he kept me there all this time,
it doesn't matter. We've been calling for reshuffle. So if he's been there and he's not doing anything, let's assume that's the decision.
Mr. So don't even go there. That's not a reshuffle you're calling for. Someone who's sitting in America, in Minnesota, that collecting money and giving it to you, because they don't give you what
You don't know
want.
the details. That's what I don't want you to be so conclusive of what you're saying here. We don't know. I don't know. You don't know. We saw the decision.
That's
We
my
are all
opinion.
in apprehension as to why the decision was taken.
So that's my opinion. You have the right to express your view. That's it. I'm saying the decision is based on two factors: money and politics. This man has been there for
we need to get it clear here. I think we are missing the mic. We are missing the mic here. No, hold on. You hold on. I am conducting here. Hold on here. That's not something to in charge. We on these platforms, in as much we're going to provide our opinions and views. If we get I'm not sure what are your opinion is political, because you have a political side as well. So there is no way that you can say anything that favors this government. Dr. Toto, Dr. Toronto, I'm just saying it because when you have an independent person who does not have a side, then more or less your statement becomes independent. But when you say I'm supporting this political party and is talking about the other opponent, then of course your opinion will not be authentic.
It don't have to be authentic, or who want to listen about the fire is I have the right to express my view. That's the freedom. That's the beauty of freedom. You can't say because my opinion is not authentic to you, so I cannot express it. No way. It doesn't have to be authentic to you. But I must be given the chance to express my view.
Somebody, let me see. Let me put mommy message. Oh yeah. Please, no, they're not here. Wait. Because somebody want you here tonight. Say, Papa Joy, please relax tonight.
Fighting.
And I told mommy that it's not guaranteed Papa Joy will fight. So yeah, the ceasefire is broken.
That's the total touch on this thing a bit. Yeah, that's the total touch on this thing a bit.
Yeah.
Let me make something there. The government has the right to remove any official that they appoint. It is the government prerogative. But it doesn't mean that legal procedure is always right. Just I always say it's not always right, even though they carry the day, but somebody is not right. So here, you got over 250,000 people residing in a community, in different communities in the area. If they wanted to take a decision, just inform the Council General, the Honorable Council General. At so time, inform the community that this service will be transferred to this community, and you will be no more in the position. That's okay. But there was no formal communication to the community. The Honorable Council just did it because to help him to fight that battle. He would have closed up there and just moved on. Nobody would have asked him to say, look, the government movement, that's it. Lock that door and go. Nobody would have hold him. But he did it in order because with the community and seeing the interest and to inform them, and the community acted in the right way to do that.
Right. Before let me
tell you this. So what I'm saying is here, look, Honorable Council General, it's always about money. Money. That's the first thing. Money. Second, Honorable Council General, they are appointed by factors. One, sometimes person who have close ties with the community, they may not come from that country, but they have close ties with the community. Those are some of the factors that take in. And like this job, if the foreign minister come, someone can go there and say, look, I want the honorable council to this country here. Even though you don't have much citizens there. But what they want is the diplomatic immunity. The diplomatic immunity that they enjoy being a diplomat. That's why they go after these things. So when I say money is involved, and that's the reality. No diplomat will come and tell you, say, this is not true. People go and pay money for government officials to appoint them as honorable council general to other countries. These are the factors involved. So what I'm wanting to see, this young man will go, and I want to see this honorable council general that they will appoint to run that office. Let us see. He can be a Ghanaian. Once the foreign minister is the foreign minister friend, that's it. He gave them some good money to appoint him. You got to just get a document there. That's it.
Okay. Let's do a round table before we
leaders taking the steps They did the right thing, and that was sometimes when you get people leadership in your community is good. And Minnesota leadership did a good thing to stand up for the people. But the whole thing, it boiled down to money and politics.
Yeah, I think the intervention by the leadership, and I love the question. You say, look, we have 48 hours. We understand we have other community leaders within it. What time some people doing double, triple, you call them and say, it's on and it's snowing, it's sleeping. They can't even return call. They're waiting for crisis for everybody. Oh, the man call me and say. So I think that was a quick and fast. Can you imagine? There was about to everything. So that's good. But let's give them counsel here now to counsel in terms of advice quickly at 1 minute each. What do you want the community to do now in terms of the pendant meeting, dialogue, conversation with the government? What should they put there? Say, Pa George,
yeah, what I'm saying,
you want to offer advice here. Let's see, because you
what I would tell the community to do is that to just impress on the government that the Council General or the Council, they should remain open and to continue to provide services to them. And they should not move it far. If they want to move it, let them look at the location, the population, because they say Brooklyn Park is the most densely populated Liberian community. So you can keep the council, the office there, and whoever take over, render the same services to the people. Because it is a government prerogative to appoint whoever they want to appoint. The only thing I want that the services should continue to be provided to Liberians in our community. That's all they can push for. But they cannot determine whom the contract should go to. That is prerogative. Because now everything in Liberia, George open we are. So all the Achampon, the Freepont, all the contracts going to them from Ghana. Over six, seven companies in Liberia, they are all Ghanaian. So George open we are, so all the Freeport, the Achampon, the Kwesi, all the contracts are going to them. So they just got to work what they have.
Mommy, your ceasefire is broken anyhow. Okay,
he named
all the people Joy. Please rely to know no fighting is still not echo smoking in no way. The United Nations can't even go far with the peace.
Yeah, George gave he got
the Taranga, you got to tell my, you got to head it.
He gave them some gunshots tonight. It was good.
Dr. Toto, what's the final message, especially to the leadership in preparation for this meeting?
I mean, the leadership is at the on a very good path. To engage the government, and as we all say, we give it to the community. I've been a community leader. These are some of the services that we provide in the community.
For no reason.
But sometimes our community, a lot of people take that on largest. That community do more, but these are some of the things you saw when the Senate director was speaking, had this the office up to 5 a.m. Just to engage the president. That was a huge plus for them. They were on the right path. They just continue when the delegation come, engage the delegation also to in the same path, in a respectful way. And I continue to say, I don't be disagree with you. I want to know why were the problem government for to make that decision? Looking at the population in the area.
You don't want to eat the meat, you want to go in the ear, in the door ear? You want to know the bullet that kill the meat?
Well, somebody would do our research, would do our background research, and they will find out why were the problem the government made that decision first, But the community is in the wrap up, and they continue with that, they'll have a constructive engagement with the government.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Toronka, is there any sort of legal implication in this kind of thing? Do they need to do a legal battle? Should they prepare for that, for eventuality?
I don't think they should, but Dr. George, George already told us what prompted them: money and politics. So we already got our answers, and they don't need to know. I don't think they should. This kind of issue, I don't think that they should go in it, trying to have with their legal guns. I think they've already got the government's attention. They've already got a possible resolution. They should remain professional as they have been in their swiftness. When they come, I think they should really, once they open the Pandora box to try to hold someone to their feet as to the credibility of what happened, I think that would derail the possible swift resolution, because it's going to be arguing and blaming and all that stuff, and they will lose focus on a possible resolution. So they should not go to that table trying to figure out why y'all did this, although it was a critical question to answer because you don't want it to be repeated again. But you got them to their feet. Go in there with your best possible resolution, because again, this is election season. They are apt to do what you want because they want to look good. It was motivated by politics. I agree with Pat George on this wholeheartedly, because the timing was too perfect. And then they cause a problem, and then they say, oh, look how swift we answer, because that's the narrative they want people to take. Fair enough. So use that.
They want to be a good listener now. Of
course, use that to their feet, hold them to their feet. Usually in negotiations, this is what I do. I tell you what you're supposed to be doing. When I do cross-examination of police officers, I say, as a police officer, you are supposed to maintain civility. You are supposed to, so you tell them what they're supposed to do, and they understand that, and then they have no wiggle room choice to say, no, I'm not supposed to be the good guy. Yeah, you are supposed to be the good guy. So one thing they should not do, though, they shouldn't take their word that, we're going to probably close this temporarily to open something and then give them this grand stuff that they're supposed to do. No, we don't want these services to be closed at all. Find a temporary solution. Do not give them the room to offer you something permanent without a temporary fix.
Let me cross-examine you. If you were in the positions of the executive director or OLM now, and this is where leadership comes in, and from all indication, knowing who he is, I'll follow him for a little while now, his community engagement from the past refugee camp to be in such a civilized society, and with the dialogue, the conversation here tonight, very stable, very composed, look in the eyes of the camera, looks authentic in his argument here. What else should be his focus point, I say? Because at the end of the day, when it goes good, it's everybody. But when the train derail, the leaders screw up. That's how we judge our leaders. What should be his focus as a leader? He will be leading this negotiation.
Yeah, continue to represent the interests of the community. That is the forefront. You're not there as a self-interest, and he doesn't strike me as the type who is self-interest. So if he continues to represent what the community wants, he listens to them, and he's going to take what they want to the table. You're a win-win situation. You're in a win-win. But don't derail from what the community wants. Do not go and counter-negotiate what the community wants, because then you're setting yourself up for something else with the community. So I think that's how he approached it, and he's hopefully going to win. But like I said, he got the win on his back. This is election season. They're not going to do anything crazy.
When like a child, whole 1 year, you screwed up. So 1 year, you want to do something good, so they will praise you at the end of that year.
That's what it is. So that's you better squeeze them all you can.
2023. Okay, guys, I want to thank you so much for your time, Dr. Toto, Dr. Turonkat, Amos Joy from the far left of Atlanta, Georgia. Man, this guy, you and Amos Joy, you can't keep anything for it. So, Mommy, I'm sorry, your ceasefire didn't.
But George, you are the man. You really dropped the mic tonight. I found.
All right, guys, have a pleasant evening.
All right.
Okay, so there you have it. I'm Afonso Ziensot right here in an impressive and exclusive, very composed look in the eyes of the cameras. It seems to be, and he is in control. That, of course, we know that's going to happen. The executive director of the Organizations of Liberian Base in Minnesota, KAMATY DIAHN, here making an appearance ahead, temporary halt on the consulate office in Minnesota. Is it enough? Executive director is not by now. He's going to do everything possible to have this conversation with the authority and to allow that embassy or that consulate to remain stable. Until then, by God's willing, we keep following what is happening in Minnesota, the other part. I am Afonso Z, and so have a pleasant evening. And to all our many viewers, listeners, your comments, your tweet, Mamint, Tapet, unfortunately, Amos Joy didn't listen to you, so the ceasefire was broken. But I know you saw it coming, Eleanor Barclay and all of the great people. Terry Vanny Collins, thank you so much. William Davis and all of you great people, MS Trill, and all of our good friends and followers, Eugene Hammond, Tricon Smith, Abraham Bengut, Jimmy Summons, Joseph Andrews Beto, and all of you great folks, Jack Zapu, all of you guys, everybody, John Mawulo, thank you so much. Mamin Esther Tapemo, thank you for your comments, your tweet, your input here this evening. Not a surprise. The commitment to this network is extraordinary. We want to thank all of you. Our own contributor, Wharton Carter, is not here this evening, but I also following live. Conan BL. And the list goes on. We want to thank you so much. Mr. Samuel Che, based in the Bay State of Massachusetts, and the other folks that is watching from Duporo, Liberians, Eagle, everywhere listening. We want to thank you so much. That's how we're going to draw the curtain here this evening. Until then, by God's willing, if this is the first time, follow Liberia Public Radio, subscribe, find the notification bell, hit it, so that you're going to get our live podcast. Until then, I'm Afonso Ziensot of the Liberia Public Radio. Have a pleasant evening.
DJ Square Production Classic. They
Oh, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait. We are done. Don't wait. Don't wait till I die. Don't wait, yeah. Don't wait, my brother. Don't wait. My sister, don't wait. Don't wait till I'm in the hospital. Don't wait. I'm dying. Don't wait. I need your help. Don't wait. Don't wait till I die. Please help me. Don't wait. Don't wait. I need you help me now. Don't wait. Don't wait till I die. Don't wait till I die before you help me. If you want to help me right now. Don't wait, oh sister. Don't wait.
What? Don't wait. This is by the gospel artist based in the West African state of the Republic of Liberia, Minister Jemima Walker. Don't wait. And it's good that the administration, the leadership in Minnesota, they never waited. They didn't wait upon that news. When that news descended, they immediately jumped on it. That's the role of a leader. A leader that is stable, a leader that is focused when there is a crisis. I don't care how tough it is. You put on your thought process, take on the issues, keep the focus, mobilize the people, find a way to create that open dialogue, conversation. That's what a good leader does, because a leader who hears something and then start panicking, looking for things, grabbing things he or she has no business of grabbing, that's not a leader. And I think we saw that a friend and brother, he proves that tonight, because he looks in the eyes of the camera. He sounded very authentic with the conversations. He exhibited high tolerance. Those are things that I look for when I'm having an interview with people. Your posture, your way of answering the question. When you bang your head down like better good, I know you're not saying something right to me. And then that can energize me to do more punching in the question. but there was a direct eyes contact, very composed, relaxed in answering, confident of the answers he was providing. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see our leaders in our community. Because when a leader in the community starts that, the possibility of that person, when they get to authority, most likely, not in all cases, will continue that path. And so this is why it is important and crucial that those that are even leading this community, whether they're 10% in that organization, their president or chairman or whatever director, we need to keep close eyes on them. Their ability to handle, to manage, and stabilize crisis. I'm not talking about the liberal on the way of stabilizing things, but I'm talking about finding peaceful resolutions. So the tension, we saw how it looks like it was really at a higher peak. It was at its zenith. But the idea for them to be so spontaneous to allow communication, phone calls, making all of that, and people from the ministry to call directly. And we are just hearing, like we were talking, a friend from a high profile, a minister, in fact, sending a message that a delegation is en route. And I can for sure tell you, based on what we are hearing and what we are being told, that will happen in a very shortest period of time. So all we need to do now is to rally around the administration. It's not time to bash people. You can't be going to tie conversations and carry bazooka, and then at the same time you have a white flag as a United Nations peacekeeper. It doesn't work that way. And the government is aware. It is a political season, so they would never want to do anything to hurt themselves. So go to the conversations with authenticity, put the point through, find the positive aspect, the work of that consulate, what he has been doing, and removing it at this time, what is going to be the repercussion of that. They have conscience and they're going to have a second thought. And I have no doubt that KAMATY and the board members, the entire community, and I like the part he said in his closing, people should exercise maximum restraint, be kind, be stable, trust your leaders, look out to them. It's time for us to send suggestions and ideas as to how they can engage the government. This is not CDC, Liberty Party, ANC, Unity Party affair. This is a national issue. He said it. Over 30 years or so, been fighting to have that. So why should it be removed now? Why should it? We don't want to judge that aspect. They know the reason. We don't have the facts for sure, fair to mention on hand. I was saying, our argument for the last couple of years, it has been that the services rendered, the good it has done to the country and the community itself, that must be maintained. If the door is not broken, don't fix it. If it is fixed, don't break it. I am Alfonso Zian, so thank you so much for your time this evening. Have a pleasant night. Bye-bye.
Don't wait till I die before you help me. I need your help. Help me right now. I'm in the hospital, lying on my sick bed. I just need you to help me one more life, and Jehovah will bless you. Don't wait till I die to rain cast and get my body to the grave. I said don't wait when I die before you praise me. Don't wait when I die to cry for me, man. Oh, don't wait when I die to post my photo. This woman was so sick, she was saying got up on her day. I said she went from place to place, but she could not get the treatment she needed. Finally, her son took her to the hospital. And the doctor said they should prefer pound of blood. But this woman could not afford the money. Oh yeah, giving her son could not afford the money. He left the mother at the hospital. He went to family member. He went to Uncle Johnny's place. He said, Uncle, my mother is dying. I left my mother at the hospital. And the doctor said we should breathe 5 pounds of blood. Uncle, please help my mother. Uncle, help my mother. Uncle, I beg you, help my mother.
Welcome to Fiber King of Woodland. Everyone that's looking for nice African for wedding, whatever fiber you need, you can just come over here. You have all this nice stuff. If you need ashebi, you guys can come over here for baby shower, for wedding. You guys are welcome. She have really nice stuff. You can see all over there, all those men over here. You don't have to go to the theater and then Nicole will be telling you all kind of stories. You can just come here. They're already made. And for ladies, you can just look for whatever fiber you're looking for and match it for the men. And, your husband already have a shirt made. You can get stuff for your kids. You can get stuff for the whole family. We have African slippers and ashobi hair ties all over. We have different kinds of lists and everything. So you guys are welcome, okay? It's really nice. It's Fiber Queen on 6695 off of Woodland. 6625 Woodland Avenue, okay? So you guys are welcome, 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 welcome. You have nice stuff here for ladies.
What happened, Suma? That's so money. What happened?
Put it there. You didn't know. You better put it there. I know. You didn't know.
Suma, I go put it there.
You don't know the money you take from Clay. Put it there.
Suma, you stupid. Oh. You happy?
What do you mean by not happy? You make it person. You say eat or what? I tell a fool I eat it. And I worry that then you got your money on Piato somebody to me. How do you appear that time?
You have to question money or else the police are going to pay for you.
Look, you think that police are afraid to? You think that police are afraid to?
Honey,
you think that police are
afraid? Who is this little questions organizing making noise in my vicinity?
None is there, you so far. Look, you tell this character you that your vicinity. And why, Jana?
Shut up. She's my wife. Honey, who is this Asian Australopithecus? Honey, I lost or complain to you. Ever want Suma the seller to my ear worry that he don't want yet. I always told you to know better. You have to study human characteristics in order to know who to carry your eat and worry. Because humans are diversified. Now you listen to me.
No, I will not listen. I will not listen to you. I will not listen to you.
Shut up.
I will not listen to you. I will not shut up.
I want you to forget my vicinity.
That's your fucking. You tell this guy that you're fucking. Look, I tell this guy to you. You bring it to me. Okay, I told you.
The next time I see you here, I will dismantle the demonic joints.
That your demonic joint you. That demonic joint. That will go call my brother. You will stop.
Nonsense. Little loquacious organism.
Oh, this is about the male offspring of my parent. What is the problem that you have brought for me again today?
Ain't no that one there. The whole working said eat or what it. She said, oh, Margaret, eat or what you can eat and you what it before you pay. She go take money from Chris. That's why I go take the money for the money penny. I go see one day I saw him. Does he know what he say about you? He said, why is that a player who is on Liverpool? He doesn't know nothing. He's a busy borrow. He said, it's a seat to go on we go.
Who is he?
I doesn't know him as all.
No, I mean, who is he to oppose to my intellectual ability? In this case, I'm going to academically castrate him.
Very good.
I will frustrate him.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what so you can't get it.
Then I disgrace what I disgrace him.
Yeah, that's what
we shall be going now. we shall be going.
Does he know what I mean for a man to look at you say you need to put? That was what you can get to him.
In this letter, I have to go along with my lexicons.
Yeah. Whatever problem you not have paper.
In this case, when the case is so serious to the extent that it's serious, there's no slip-up. Let's go.
Well, that go, you know what I mean for somebody to I say you are in Liverpool? Either way.
What
Can't tell my money.
Money can't see something here. There's Homo Erectus is here again.
I got money, you get it? Give it to him.
I heard that you articulated some negative words against me, so I'm here for response.
That was some level of fabrication. You should have asked my biological nomenclature before propounding and elucidating at me.
In this case, your nomenclature does not have anything to do with the essentiality of the matter.
Very good, I give it to him.
For I always told people, the actual comes from the actuality.
Okay.
The actuality, it can give you the reality.
Okay.
The reality has to do with the possibility and your capability.
Okay.
That is a capability that you are lack of. That is why you are a parasitic Homo sapien who is dwelling on this female Homo sapien because she is financially upward because of it and worry.
Very cool, give it to him.
Now, my young man, listen to me. If only I have not thought on one thing, I was going to castrate and discommunicate you for the entire educational sector of this community.
If I were asked to describe you biologically, if I were asked to describe you biologically, my young Homo sapien, I'm going to describe you as a low-class animal who does not have the intuition.
If only not because of my wife, I could have tormented the thing in ties and penalized you and your useless brother before dismissing my veranda. To be very pessimistic with you. It is really right for an individual to walk in your veranda confronting your beautiful, gorgeous, pomponious, and succulent wife on issues like him being owing the woman simply because he credited her eat and worry that he never had finance to pay back.
You are talking about this problematic offspring of my parents?
Definitely.
So, however, you tell to me, I said, give it to him, and you want to give it to him.
In this case.
I give it to you, what want you on?
Wrongfully. He did some explanatory aspect to me wrongful.
Now you can dismiss.
Once more, I say, I'm sorry, we shall call that this problematic offspring of my parents.
Now you can dismiss.
We shall settle it as
you can dismiss.
Why you going to the bathroom?
You can dismiss.
I
could have castrated entire the thing, disgrace, those fools.
Yeah, so everybody, everything's going bad. The situation getting worse. Everybody in the country getting mad. Dishonesty, poverty on the rise. The leaders them making into promises with no damn strategies. Yeah, this is better days, money in the pockets. Oh, as a holidays only for the bosses. Yeah, there's a better days, money in your pockets. Oh, as a holidays only for the bosses. The bosses. Oh, yo. Hey, what about the children? What about the people? What about your families? What are gonna eat though? Yeah, so Sophie and we waiting nobody care about you. They don't care, my people, it's true. They don't wanna see you break through. The whole country's getting confused. Corruption, no questions. The country's going in the wrong direction.